this is a little new, but I'm trying something new out. So let me know what you think. And this might actually be your first time here, so I'd be willing to bet this video is probably going to reach a different audience than I usually do. But we'll see. So yeah, should be quite fun. This is more of a spur of the moment thing, but also because I wanted to start making content that would be both easy for me to make and fun. And so I had this idea, just doing ASMR readings of books. Now this is definitely more of a children's book, so not too paleo information heavy, but I might be able to do more informal books in the future. I have a bunch of different books, dinosaur books that I have, and so yeah, if you like this, definitely let me know. But anyway, let's just get into this, and we'll see how it goes. This is first 100 dinosaurs, and I can kind of do some tapping on the books. I think that's some good ASMR stuff. I do listen to ASMR sometimes. Most of it is more like nature sounds or just tapping, stuff like this, when I'm working or just whenever to help me keep focused. I can bring it closer to the mic. You can't see it, but I'm going to bring it closer so you can hear it a bit better. But it's got a nice feel to it. It's like those children's books that are made out of like the dense, almost cardboard type feel. So let's go ahead and just get right into this. So I don't know there's actually exactly 100 dinosaurs in here because there's stuff other than dinosaurs. You can tell on the front cover, things like the fern here, and then you have this insect, the volcano, nest, the fossil, all kinds of different stuff. But anyway, let's go ahead and just get into this. So we open the page, and we're finding some pretty unique dinosaurs on this first little bit here. And in fact, they include Ceratosaurs on this first page, so that's already a win for me. Ceratosaurs is my favorite dinosaur, for those of you who don't know. But yeah, the first dinosaur they actually show is Amargasaurus, which I suppose makes sense. It starts with an A. So that's going to be the first one. It's a kind of sauropod, as you can see there, and it's got these little, like, vertebral spines. Its vertebra had these little spines coming off of it. Now, we don't know for sure, at least I think we don't know for sure, if these spines jutted out like spikes like they did here, or if they were covered by some sort of fleshy covering, almost like a Spinosaurus, if you're familiar with that. If you're not, that's okay, we'll get to that later. But yeah, that's Amargasaurus. We got Dimorphodon, which is a type of pterosaur, a flying reptile. Now, these guys are technically not dinosaurs. Like I said, they're classified as flying reptiles. Now, these guys are pretty cool. They're pretty small, but they got a big head and a long tail. Big head, long tail. We got a nest here. Got some blue eggs in it. No idea what kind of dinosaur it's supposed to be, but it's got some blue eggs in it. Got a Dinosaurus. Now, I'm not too familiar with this dinosaur. I just know it's some kind of relative to Pachycephalosaurus, I would believe, given the shape of its head. It doesn't look like it has a big dome on it, but it's got this kind of little spiky, bumply things on its head on the back there. So it's a herbivore. Weird fella. And also, the illustrations in this book should not be taken as actual good illustrations of these animals, because this is a children's book, and so a lot of these are going to be stylized and overall not accurate at all. Anyways, next we got Ceratosaurus. Now, this is my top favorite dinosaur, top favorite animal, really. But it's like the coolest dinosaur in my opinion. It's a theropod, not quite as big as T-Rex, but it's still pretty sizable. It's taller than you or me, most likely. It had these three horns, although they were more like crests. They weren't being used in battle, probably, but more for display. They would have been probably brightly colored. And they also had what's called osteoderms on their back, these little bumpy things, almost like the skin of crocodiles on their back. Now on the next page, we got some more well-known dinosaurs. We have T-Rex, Triceratops, but then we also have Baryonyx, which is a type of a Spinosaur. It's not like Spinosaurus, it doesn't have the fin on its back, but it does have the same, really similar jaw structure. It was made for eating fish, this guy. And then we also have a volcano down here. Volcanoes were present during the time of dinosaurs. And, yeah, this one's not having a good time right now. Alright. Next up, we have Macroplata. Now, this is also not technically a dinosaur. This is a marine reptile. So these guys are aquatic. Dinosaurs, by definition, are terrestrial animals, so they don't live in the water entirely. But these guys did. And you also have Mapusaurus over here, which is a bit of a lesser known dinosaur, but it was pretty big. If you're familiar with Giganotosaurus, it was in that same family. It was like a Ceratopsians. Yeah, these guys were big, very, very big. And they have these little bit on the snout here. This is actually pretty accurate, the shape of it, at least the very basic shape of it. This little structure here that would have been a bit harder than the rest of its skin. And down here we have Pentaceratops. This is a ceratopsian like Triceratops, except it's three horns. Its front horn, I believe, is a bit longer. Actually, I might not be true. It might just be with this illustration. It might not have that. But its frill is quite a bit different, though. It was shaped in this weird U-ish shape at the top, unlike Triceratops, and it had these horns coming out of it at the top that were a bit bigger than the ones we usually see on Triceratops, or just small ones around the side. It's got some big ones on the top. And then we also have Ankylosaurus, which a lot of you may already be familiar with. This is the one with the club tail, as you can see. Down there is more of the club tail. So, yeah, pretty cool guys. Also got some nice armor around here. Then we got this whole half a page over here dedicated to just Parasaurolophus. This was a kind of hadrosaur. These you might know them as duck-billed dinosaurs, although they didn't actually have bills like a duck. They did have some pretty interesting bills, and they often had some kind of ornamental structure on their heads, like this guy has this big old crest, and that was likely used to both as a display structure and used to make sound. So, all kinds of cool theories in there. Then we also got, down here we have a lake, some kind of body of water. Drink it up, glug glug. Got some amber as well. That's fossilized tree sap. You might know that from Jurassic Park. But yeah, fossilized tree sap. We have Velociraptor as well. This is kind of a mix between an actual accurate Velociraptor and a more Jurassic Park monsterified Velociraptor, because it's all naked and weird and wrinkly and a little bit ugly, I'm not gonna lie. No offense, but it's a little bit ugly. But its skull shape is pretty good for a generic Velociraptor shape. Alright, moving on, we got Nothosaurus. Now this is also not a dinosaur, but it was also a little bit mixed between living in the water and living on land. Since it wasn't fully adapted, you see this actually has limbs, not full-on flippers, but it had limbs. It's a very cool guy, very interesting creature. And then of course we have Stegosaurus. Y'all probably know Stegosaurus with the plates and the spikes on the end of its tail. Now these guys actually have a name. These spikes on the tail here, they're actually called thagomizers. There's a tail or a name specific to just the tail spikes. And we also have Diplodocus down here. This is a type of sauropod. So yeah, these were some pretty big guys. These weren't quite like Brachiosaurus, not nearly as tall, but they were certainly a lot longer than Brachiosaurus. Then move over here, we have Deinonychus. Now it's kind of interesting they have Deinonychus, which is another dromaeosaur-like velociraptor. And they choose to give this guy some little dino fuzz, almost fur-looking stuff on it, which is quite interesting. Now Deinonychus was a little bit bigger than Velociraptor, still not as big as the ones that were in Jurassic Park. You have Brachiosaurus, which y'all probably know this one. It's the first dinosaur you see in Jurassic Park, so it tends to make a pretty big impression on people. It's pretty cool too. You know, these guys are a lot taller. They specialized in being tall, whereas ones like Diplodocus specialized in being long. These guys were specialized in being tall, so they reached the highest treetops and got them sweet leaves on the top. Then at the bottom we have Aerodactylus. This is a type of pterosaur like the Morphodon earlier, and I'm not too familiar with this name, so I don't know too much about this guy, but I would venture a guess that he's probably pretty small, at least on the smaller side as far as pterosaurs go. We also have Kentrosaurus, which is similar to Stegosaurus, but it has a bit smaller plates along its back, so it's not quite as flashy. So this is kind of like the cooler one. He's the cool kid. He's not quite as cool, but we love him anyways. Alright, then we got a desert up here. A desert. It's got some dinosaur footprints. I don't know if y'all can see those. There's some dinosaur trackways leading up into the dunes. We also have Troodon up here. Now Troodon is pretty similar to Velociraptor. It was a little bit bigger. But yeah, these guys are pretty cool. They also have really big eyes. Really big eyes. And I don't know for sure, but I think the general consensus was that these guys could hunt pretty well at night. And down here you have Alamosaurus. Now Alamosaurus was a Titanosaurus. These guys were very, very big. And this was actually one of the only sauropods that T-Rex would have actually been able to run into during its time and where it lived in North America. So based on geological location, T-Rex and Alamosaurus were the only two that would have met. At least Alamosaurus was the only sauropod that T-Rex could meet. Rhamphorhynchus is another type of pterosaur about the same size as the Morphodon. And you can tell that the small ones are usually the ones with the long tails. That's how you usually can tell they're one of the small ones. It also had a pretty nasty looking head with some big ol' thin, sharp teeth in its mouth. We also have Ichthyosaurus down here. This was almost like a mix between a reptile and a dolphin. So very interesting creature. Not a dinosaur though. Not a dinosaur, since these guys lived in the water entirely. Got some ferns over here for this Lambeosaurus to munch on. Lambeosaurus is another hadrosaur like Parasaurolophus. You can see that it also has a different crest on its head that almost looks like a thumbs up if you put it like that. Yeah, see the resemblance? It's a thumbs up. But yeah, it's a pretty cool guy. Then down here we have another whole half page dedicated to Spinosaurus, which, I'll pull that up a little bit. I mentioned this earlier. Now this guy had a big old spine on his back, and we actually know now that they had an even longer extension of the spine going on to the tail. That almost made almost like a salamander type tail. So very, very cool. It had a mouth specialized for eating things like fish and stuff. It was probably living pretty close to the water for the most part. Alright, now we have Cosmoceratops, which is another Ceratopsian, except the horns aren't nearly as big, and the brow horns come out to the side a little bit, and the horns on the frill kind of curve inwards as well. We have Zephyrosaurus. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have no clue what this guy is, but I know he's a herbivore. You can tell that by his mouth. He doesn't look too intimidating. Looks pretty chill, just walking along there. We also have Pteranodon, which is a bit bigger than the other pterosaurs we've seen so far. And you can tell it has that crest on its head. We also have a skull down here, and this looks to be a skull of a Pachycephalosaurus, which is the dome-headed dinosaur. You might be seeing one of those here up in a bit. We also have a hot spring. This looks like the ones from Yellowstone, like Old Faithful or something. But it's a hot spring. Alright, then we have Coelophysis. Now this was a pretty small dinosaur, though not as small as Velociraptor or Deinonychus. It was still pretty small. It had a very thin, slender jaw. Probably wasn't too big on bite force, and might have specialized in eating fish. We also have Stegosaurus over here. Now this is a type of Pachycephalosaur, so similar to this skull right here. That's what these guys were. No, this wasn't quite the same as Pachycephalosaurus. It had a few minor differences, both just mostly in the shape of the head and the shape of the body, and a few small things, but nothing too oblivious. Then down here we have Sauropelta. The Sauropelta was like Ankylosaurus, except its armor wasn't nearly as big or noticeable. It had these big old spikes coming out from the side of it. These big old spikes that would have probably done pretty good to warn predators off. We have Mosasaurus. Now, I don't know too much about this guy. I've heard it a few times, but I'm not even sure if this is technically even supposed to be a dinosaur or not. I don't know for sure. I'm not entirely 100% sure, but still pretty chill, dude. Looks pretty cool. Alright, next up we got Nodosaurus, which is another kind of Ankylosaurus similar to Sauropelta, except it didn't have any real armoring on its back. It was kind of naked looking back there. A weird guy. Yeah, Centrosaurus, another Ceratopsian, except it didn't really have big old brow horns. It had a big front horn though. Very big front horn, almost like a rhinoceros. We have a stampede of dinosaurs down here. This looks like a stampede of Coelophysis. I would venture a guess. Hadrosaurs here. Now this is what the entire Hadrosaur family is based on. Now, ironically, this guy doesn't really have any huge structures on its face, but still a Hadrosaur. We have a watering hole over here. A watering hole where all the dinosaurs would come to drink up some water. Got some claws, look like some theropod claws. We also got Microraptor, which was a pretty bird-like dinosaur, very bird-like dinosaur. And it had 4 wings. It had wings as its arms, and then its legs also kind of acted as 3rd and 4th wings. We actually know that it actually wasn't this color, did we? Know that Microraptor was more of a blackish type color. Alright, then we have Iguanodon. Now, what kind of sucks about this is that they don't actually show what makes Iguanodon special, which is its thumb. It has a big ol' thumb claw to stab any meats with. Alright, then we have Allosaurus, which you all might be familiar with. Allosaurus, it's a small theropod. It had 3 fingers and a little crest near its eyes. Real cool dude. We have Montana Ceratops, which I'm guessing is found in Montana. Another Ceratopsian, and it doesn't have any horns, but it had a beak. A pretty nasty bite on that beak. And we also have Scelidosaurus, another dinosaur-like Nodosaurus, pretty similar. I think it was a little bit smaller though. We have Leopleurodon, however you want to pronounce it. These are another, not a dinosaur, but an aquatic marine reptile. We have a canyon. This looks like something like a Grand Canyon or something. Little canyon in here. Now over here we have Quetzalcoatlus, which I think, for now, stands as the record for the largest flying thing to ever exist, or largest flying living thing to ever exist. So yeah, these guys had like a 40-foot wingspan. So they were pretty big guys. And down here we have Albertosaurus. Now these guys were in the same family as T-Rex. These were Tyrannosaurs, except Albertosaurus had little horns above its eyes. We also have a cycad over here, a type of prehistoric plant. Then we have Utahraptor, which was a much bigger dromaeosaur than Deinonychus or Velociraptor. It was about 20 feet long, 6 feet high, pretty big guys. And I kind of like that these guys, whoever made this book, decided to put feathers on them. Quite cool. Alright, then we got footprints over here, some dinosaur footprints. These look like the ones from Glen Rose, Texas. These, I think, if they are, then these are likely Acrocanthosaurus footprints, which are quite nice. We have Leptoceratops over here, which is another Ceratopsian. This guy doesn't look too happy, so I'm just going to move right along to Fabrosaurus down here. I'm not too sure what kind of dinosaur this is. I'm not too familiar with the name, but he looks like a chill guy. I like him. We also got a dragonfly over here, a little dragonfly, another insect, looks like a beetle. Now this page we got all sauropods. All sauropods. We got Camarasaurus, which is the kind of on the shorter side or the smaller side of sauropods, but still very big compared to you and I. We have Supersaurus, which is a lot bigger than Camarasaurus. It was quite long. We have Titanosaurus, and this is the same kind of dinosaur as Alamosaurus, earlier Titanosaur. So these guys were some of the biggest of the big animals to ever big. Some very, very big guys. Alright, then we got Chasmosaurus. Chasmosaurus, another Ceratopsian. It had some pretty short horns, but its frill was real wide and weird looking. Weird in a cool way that we don't judge. We have Nemicolopterus. Just based on the size of this guy's head and everything else about him, I venture to say this guy is super, super tiny. He looks very, very small just by looking at him. I would venture, I guess. We also got Genentia. I'm not too familiar with this guy. I think it might be either a sauropod or some kind of early sauropod, something like that. But yeah, got some eggs, some dinosaur eggs, got some horns. It looks like a Triceratops or maybe a Stegosaurus or something. Some horns. Or I guess if they're horns, that means they're on the face, so it has to be a Triceratops or a Ceratopsian. Got some meteors over here, some rocks from outer space. We also got Theropods. You might know this guy from the new Jurassic World movie. These guys had some pretty long claws, about 3 feet long. Pretty crazy. We also have Gallimimus down here, which is a very, very fast, giant, almost like an ostrich-looking dinosaur. We also have an ammonite, which are these little cephalopods. Think of like a squid in a shell. Yeah, squid in a shell. Got Deinostrophius up here. Deinostrophius. Now these guys aren't a dinosaur, but they're more like a big old lizard with a long neck. Got Aqualops, which is kind of nice. They put this guy in here. This is a pretty new discovery, I think, relative to whenever this book probably came out. So that's quite nice. This is a type of Ceratopsian, I think, except it walks bipedally. But yeah, very cool guy. We got Chronosaurus, which is pretty similar to Liopleurodon, except I think Chronosaurus was quite a bit bigger than Liopleurodon. Alright, over here we have Uranosaurus. This was another Hadrosaur that had a spine, similar to Spinosaurus. We have Yingshinosaurus over here, which is another Stegosaur. Had some bit smaller plates on its back, but they grew in size as they went along. We have Urognathus down here, which I don't really even know what this guy is. He looks a little freaky, but he's also pretty cool. He looks like a mix between a pterosaur and a bat. I haven't done too much research on these guys, but they're little flying goblin things. We got a swamp down here, a little swampy swamp. We also have Ceratosaurus, another Hadrosaur. This is pretty similar to Lambeosaurus. It doesn't have the little spiky thing growing out, so it's just got a big old hump right there. We also have a herd of dinosaurs, herd of sauropods walking along, and Ornithomimus, which is pretty similar to Gallimimus, the ostrich-looking thing. We have an Ultrasaurus, which sounds pretty cool. These guys were in the same family as Brachiosaurus. We have Tushangosaurus, another Stegosaur. We have Anangara, I think how you pronounce that. Another pterosaur. You can see its mouth has a bunch of little interlocked teeth. Pretty cool. We have Carnotaurus. Over here, Carnotaurus, which had a spike on either side of its head, above its eye. This is a sauropod looking fella. Got Styracosaurus over here, another Ceratopsian. This guy had a big old horn in the middle, like Centrosaurus, but he also had these big old horns all along the frill. Pretty cool dude. Alright, then the last page, got a paleontologist. These are the guys that dig up bones. Dig up these things, these bones. Got a camera, take the camera and take pictures of the bones. Got an SUV because every paleontologist has an SUV apparently. We also have a fossil. This doesn't even look like a dinosaur. This looks like a camel or something. I don't know. Got a microscope to look at the fossils after you're done digging. Got discovery because that's a word. That's dinosaurs. And then we have research. You got some research, dinosaur research on your computer. And you also got some tools that people use to dig up dinosaurs. You got pickaxe for the main breaking of the rocks, and you got the brush to clean away the details. But yeah, that does it for first 100 dinosaurs. Yeah. So, not too sure how well this is even gonna turn out, both in quality and in performance on YouTube, but we will see. We shall see. Yeah. Hope you all enjoyed, and please let me know if you want me to do more of these, or if you want me to stop doing these as soon as physically possible. I will do either one, should you ask me to. So, love you all, and as always, keep your pencils sharp.